Hello and welcome to another edition of Elemental Connections, where we're giving voice to the unseen realms of nature. And today we have beautiful Gary Cook with us. Welcome, Gary.
Hello.
Hey.
Hi. It's nice to be here with you.
It's really exciting. So for anybody who's not come across Gary, Gary has an amazing passion for the natural world, for forests, for water, for the land, for ancient stories. You're a storyteller, a film. You're working with video production and images. Yeah, you bring through so much from nature. It's such a joy to have you here.
Aha, thank you. Actually, it's a joy to be able to talk with you. I know that you and I have discussed having a chat probably for about 2 years.
It's been a while,
so
hasn't it?
we finally got there. So I think that's really wonderful. And it's nice to be able to share things with you, and hopefully there'll be lots of people out there that may gain a little something as you and I talk in the next half hour to an hour, or however long this may take.
Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be lots of beautiful wisdom that comes through. And yeah, I love the synchronicity with you as well, because I came across you after I interviewed Laura Wolfers, and I kept looking at you thinking, I feel like I know you. And then it took a while before I twigged that you had made a film with my friend Christiana called Voices from the Forest. That was a great film. So I'm going to share links to that as well, so people can go and check out that film. But well, I think it'd be really nice to dive into a little bit of your background and how you got to where you are now with your experience with nature. Sort of, yeah. Just share whatever comes. Would be great.
I guess, yeah, that's good. You've given me quite a big palette here on which I can start to draw and paint things. Okay, I guess my interest in nature comes from my childhood days. And my father and my mother and siblings, we moved to quite a few places around the North Island of New Zealand, a temperate zone country with lots of beautiful forests and mountains and rivers and lakes. And we lived in a number of very, very small places. My father's work took him to very small towns. And so for a time I lived on the edge of the mighty Urewera forest, which is the home of the Tuhoi people, the home of the children of the mist. Mm. And so as a 10-year-old boy, along with other 9 or 10-year-old boys, we used to hare off into the forest. And this is primeval, untouched jungle virtually. And we would go exploring caves, and we would go tickling trout, and we would go and think we were big hunters trying to hunt wild pigs and things like this. But we were just free within nature. It was wonderful. Swimming, horseback riding. So just for a few years, I was exposed to this. And of course, this then gave me my interest. Now, another place that we lived at also, further up the coast of the North Island, a place called Te Araroa. I often was on a Friday or Saturday night down at the local marae, which is the Maori people's meeting place on the marae. And me, as a Pākehā, a young white boy, was often down there helping to prepare food for a function which might be on the next day, peeling potatoes and doing things like that. And just with all my other young schoolmates doing work as they did. It was a natural thing. But I used to hear stories that the kuya, or the ladies, used to tell. And from that, I got an inkling of perhaps a deeper aspect to the history of this land. So away we go, and we grow up, and we move on in life. We have all sorts of adventures. And I guess that, as a lot of people realize, sometimes it takes a major dramatic or traumatic event to bring a change into your life. Mm-hmm. And mine was when I was 16 and a half, still at high school. I was doing some clandestine experimenting with making things go bang, and I made something go really bang. So I damaged myself quite a lot and lost bits and pieces and what have you.
Wow.
And that was at 16 and a half. That was quite a traumatic thing to happen. But it opened my eyes up to all sorts of things. Even though I didn't quite realize it then, these are things which were fixed in my mind. And then I guess another milestone, other than getting married in 1964. So we've been married about 55 years. So that's incredible. Um, it was in about 1974, I had a near-death experience. And I didn't really realize that I was quite allergic to the sting of a bee. And the
Wow.
bee stung me on the neck, and I went into anaphylactic shock. And I was gone. I died for about 12 minutes, and they managed to revive me at the doctor's surgery in the small town miles and miles away from where we were living. That, of course, was a biggie, because with that experience, as you've probably read, or people know if they've had this experience themselves, you move through into another realm. You're gone, you're on the way.
Mm-hmm.
And then for some reason, either you're told to come back, or suddenly you find yourself being drawn back, and back you come into this world. So just stepping into the other world momentarily is amazing. It changes your perspective on things.
Yeah.
So away we go in the workaday life, and getting on in the world. And then I took a deep interest in the early history of this land, the Maori history, and perhaps people who were here before Maori came. And so I did a lot of reading and a lot of exploration, and Raywin, my wife, and myself travelled all over New Zealand, looking at ancient sites, doing the amateur archaeological thing, doing measurements and taking photographs and pontificating and saying, yes, I wonder if, yes, that could be, maybe. But it was interesting though, Layla, because in doing this, we went to some amazing places. We went to places that we were taken to by Maori people to share the deeper history and their tribal history, and what they call the whakapapa, which is a genealogy. And some of these places they took us to were very tapu, or sacred, to this day, because these were places where in the past, and even some places are still used today, for certain rituals at certain times of the year. It may be observing the start of the Māori New Year, Matariki, which just occurred a few weeks ago. And so we went to these places, climbing up mountains, flying up in helicopters and going in boats and things. So we were the explorers. We were like Dora the Explorer and her husband, and away we went. And now the big thing is that often when I was doing these measurements and things, I'd be by myself, and I always had the feeling, as we speak about in the documentary actually, that I was being observed. Something was looking at me. Something was behind me, behind the tree, behind the rocks, or just out of sight. And I quickly turned around to try and see what was it. No, nothing there. No. Then I found something strange, that some places I felt so wonderful when I went to. There was obviously an energy there in that place. This was a gathering place of ancient people, so they had left their impressions there, their psychic impressions. And I think their songs and their voices are still recorded in the stones and the trees there. And I found myself going back to some of these places again. Some I had to travel great distances. I was drawn back, and I'd stand there and I'd look around and I'd say, wow, it's a beautiful view. Love the river, love the mountains, love the forest, love the big trees. Then I realized that the place had been talking to, these places were talking to me inwardly. Not that I was really aware of it, but they were impressing on me, sort of saying, hey, you came here and with cameras and measuring tapes and compasses and did all this archaeological stuff. That's not what this is about. So this gave me an incredible introduction to special places. So, and it was probably about 12, 14 years ago, we brought a man from Cornwall by the name of Hamish Miller, and Hamish and Bar Miller. They were geomancers and dowsers of renown. And so for 3 consecutive years, we brought Bar and Hamish out to New Zealand for 2 months. So we spent 6 months over 3 years traveling to all these special places that we visited and other places we had yet to discover, while he doused the energies and the forms and what was there. And it just opened up things immeasurably. Mm. So consequently, Raymond and I made a number of journeys to England, and we traveled to right through all the sacred sites. And my gosh, I could not. I'd need 2 or 3 lifetimes to visit all those in the UK and Europe. We went to the Outer Hebrides, and we went up to the Orkneys. And so Ray and I went everywhere, and we walked on these places. And it just made me realize that although we have no monolithic rock structures in New Zealand, because everything was built in timber, there's so much timber in this land, it never survived, it's rotted away. Of course, when I go to Europe and the UK and Ireland and places like that, of course, there's remnants of things everywhere. So there they are, and they're great sort of signposts. This is the place, So in New Zealand, you can very much walk into a plateau, sort of on the side of the mountain, surrounded by forests, and think, well, this is nice to look at, and suddenly, wow, there's something special about this place, right? And of course, this led me into looking quite deeply into the elemental and fairy folk in this land. Now, known to the Māori as the Patuparehi, or the Turehu. And so there are descriptions of these little people, which is quite intriguing because they were described as being quite small in height, 3 to 4 foot high, and a very fair complexion, red or blonde hair, and blue or green eyes, which is quite intriguing because the natural color of the skin of the Polynesian people is very brown. And so I found this quite intriguing. So then I have no sort of fairy experiences really in England, just a few for the sacred sites. But the one place where I actually accidentally photographed something on the side of a tree was in the oak trees at Avebury Circle, around the far side there, and the trees where J.J. Tolkien is supposed to have sat whilst he was writing The Hobbit.
Oh, I didn't know that.
This to him was a very magical grove of trees, and I didn't know this at the time. And I photographed this particular image, which appeared in the book. It's a beautiful image, and I thought, wow, there's more to this than meets the land. So there we are, you see, and that's how things progress.
Wow, you're on such magical land there.
Yeah, it's incredible, and as I said, it's just perfectly natural here. So within the natural beauty, and see, one thing leads to another. Then about 4 years ago, just over 4 years ago, when I fell over on our land here in the forest and broke my ankle, I was laid up for a while. What am I going to do sitting at home there, not being able to go outside and run around? I discovered by reading and researching that there were people making little electronic devices which allowed you, if you had one of these devices, to hook up with a tree or a plant or a pot plant or a bush and make music. And you might hear a little bit in the background at the moment. Now this little bit of music here, which I won't tempt you any further, and I notice over your shoulder in the distance a peace lily. This music is being played by our peace lily at home here called Sabella. And Sabella and I have been playing or making music together for 4 years now. And because I was housebound with my ankle, Sabella was the only way I could test out this exciting new electronic equipment. Simple sort of equipment to look at, simple in operation, but very complex if you look inside the box. It's all computerized and it's a MIDI system, and it does all sorts of wonderful things. And so you just make a connection on the root of the plant, around the root area, and also one on the leaf. So you are completing a circuit.
Mm-hmm.
And this circuit is picking up, I guess it's equivalent of a little electrical discharge, which is occurring in all plants all the time because of the movement going on within the trunks and the stems and the leaves, the little valves opening and closing. There's moisture rising, there's sap rising, there's water being expired, there's carbon coming in, there's oxygen going out. So a lot of activity in that tree just standing there quite still. It's really going for it. And it's, you know, its heart is beating away furiously. And from this, of course, you convert these little static electricity bursts with this little device into musical notes.
Mm.
And this is what you're hearing now. So it's incredible. Who would have ever believed that there'd be a way that we could actually listen to trees in the forest, plants in the garden, the pot plant in your lounge, sit there and listen to them sing. So this is something which is moving around the world now. There are 3 or 4 groups of technicians who've developed different types of apparatus, all do much the same thing, but just another way of approaching it. So there's lots of options around, and the options for various devices are being picked up by musicians all over the world who are now performing and playing with plants, whether they are a solo guitar player or a cello player, singer with voice, a jazz ensemble. They are making music with plants. So I've seen quite a few film clips on YouTube. There's a lot there if you just look up music of the plants and just see what people are doing. So it's reaching out to people with an incredible story, a story about nature, the deeper story of nature. And there's so much more than meets the eye out there. Now, one thing about these devices, I just might say before I have a breather and give you time to have a big chat to me, is the fact that I believe that natural healing clinics in some parts of the UK and also in Europe have these devices now in the foyer where they have them connected to the potted tree in the foyer. They're piping the music into their therapy rooms.
Wow.
So often it's nice to have music while you're working, you know, with a client or a patient. So they're creating music with their own plants. You see, what happens here, the wonder of this is the fact that you develop a relationship with the plant that you play with often.
Yeah.
And this is what's happened with Sabella and other trees I have in our forest. So I have 4 or 5 trees I play regularly or play with, and they respond immediately. Sometimes if you're introducing this to a new plant or tree, you might have to be very patient and just wait, 5, 10, 15 minutes. And you think, oh, well, this is not going to happen. And suddenly the little plant goes, boom, burst into song.
Oh, really? So sometimes you can't, sometimes there's nothing.
No, that's right.
Wow, that's amazing.
So even though there is something going on, the plant is just not allowing this to be expressed.
Yeah.
You see, and it just falls back and then suddenly it goes.
Yeah.
And once you have this relationship with a plant, it'll always occur every time you go to it.
Yeah.
So it's rather wonderful, isn't it?
Yeah. I was just listening to one of your videos on YouTube. I think it was called Secret Land, and you were talking about introducing yourself to like if you're about to walk into a forest, you introduce yourself and who you are. Yes. And I've come across that practice a few times now from different people. And I like to do it. I tend to do it when I walk into a forest, and then you were talking about, then you get that response back. So yeah, so I love what you're saying here, that you're creating a one-on-one communication with the plant. So how's that like deepened your, what do you experience with this? Like,
well, it's interesting, because when we say one-on-one, just
well,
say us and plants, it becomes the whole forest.
yeah, right.
Because
Everything's one.
sometimes sometimes we'll go somewhere, and we trees. It could be a park in a town or a city, and it may be forest out in the countryside. And so often we're inclined to stop by a tree, and if we're not going to hug it, we're going to chat to it. We'll say something. We'll say, "My gosh, you look beautiful today," or something of this nature. Now, believe it or not, by introducing yourself to one tree as you go into an area, say for the first time, that tree is then going to transmit the effect you've had on it to all the other trees in the forest.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're going to say, how is this possible? Quite simple, actually, once you know the trick. I always used to think that trees, when they communicated with each other, did it either by the roots touching under the ground, or branches and leaves getting close in the canopy. But no, it's fungus which does it. It's mycelium.
Amazing stuff.
Which is under the ground, yes. And the mycelium in the forest setup, we'll just use this as an example, is intertwined in many, many layers around all the roots of all the trees. And mycelium sometimes is just one particular plant, and it could be hundreds and hundreds of square feet in diameter. It just grows and grows. Now, the mycelium grows just under the surface, not too far, and the filaments are finer than a hair on your head. But you can see them with a magnifying glass or by looking hard, if you know what to look for. So these little threads connect the trees together. But this is an amazing thing which goes on here, because the trees, as you know, are bringing in carbon, converting the carbon into plant sugar, and also transferring oxygen out through the leaves. So they've got an incredible cycle there. Now, the plant sugars, of course, is what feeds the plant. It needs water and it needs minerals for growth, but feeding it and giving it its energy of plant sugars. Evident when we know that people tap into trees like maple trees to extract the maple syrup, which is very, very sweet at a certain time of the year when it's rising in a copious amount, which means stored all winter, starts to go back out to feed the tree. You tap in and take that plant sugar. So it is edible in a form. So there we have this going on. Now, the mycelium also feeds on the plant sugar. This is a symbiotic relationship. So it is sustained. But, and this is all science I've been studying, looking at papers which have been published and what scientists are doing. And so it's got a good scientific validation here, even though some of it may still be not experimental, but just early times. But they're publishing papers on all sorts of things now, which shows how we are connected with nature. So the mycelium then has another role. It connects all the trees in the forest together. As simple as that. And it's a great big matrix. And so you don't need Wi-Fi when you go into the woods. It's already there. And the term that they've coined for this is the wood wide web.
Oh, nice.
So, okay, we've got the wood wide web, you see. So when you do talk to one tree, all the other trees in the forest are going to be aware of you. They know you as you walk through the forest, which is intriguing. So now this, of course, enables the trees to live as a community, even in a forest which is mixed forest. Lots of different trees there, whether they're oak trees, yew trees, or whatever they might be. they're all connected. They live in mostly in a harmonious community. We have a lot to learn. We have a lot of trouble in the Western world now with harmony between different races living together. But in the forests, they live together beautifully.
I was
maybe a few things. Yeah.
I was observing one time, just like looking up at the canopy and just seeing where one tree just allows the other tree to grow more, and another tree will allow a different tree. You know, there's just like they weren't fighting with each other. There's just beautiful space, and I mean different species of trees as well. Yeah, it's really evident there. Yeah.
And also the mother trees.
Yes.
From which the little seedlings have started to sprout on the forest floor. They will look after their progeny as well as seedlings from other trees if they need extra nourishment, they'll send the nourishment through the mycelium and feed them extra sugar to help them stabilize them if they're under stress, or help them in the growing process.
That's incredible.
This is just amazing when you think about it. But the big thing here, Layla, is the fact that, and I love this, I love telling people this one, the scientists have now said and stated that in the biosphere of the planet, 99% of all life on the planet is plant life. 1% is where humans, all other animals and mammals, fish, insects, reptiles, fall into 1%. So 99% of all living life on this planet is plant life. Wow.
Yeah.
We live on a plant planet.
Yeah.
Where would we? Well, we wouldn't be here in a human form if it wasn't for the plants.
So true.
No, this is it. And
it's so true. It's so where we need. It's so where we need to look for our wisdom, isn't it? Like it's all given within the plants and their relationship and their relating, and and so with your no, go on. We've got a bit of a time lap here with we're in opposite ends of the world, aren't we? So like
now I'm glad you didn't say you were at the top end of the world and we were at the bottom end of the world. Because I've seen a globe that someone made a number of years ago, which completely reversed everything. Yes. And so New Zealand was actually at the top, near the new north.
Yeah, it was. I've seen that as well, and Africa suddenly becomes a very dominant country as well. It's amazing. I love it. It's a good one. Turn things upside down. Where were we going?
I don't know, just waffling on. Lots of things to think about. So what we've got to understand too is the intelligence of trees. And this is where a lot of scientists are now looking at whether or not trees have a consciousness. Now, this is a biggie. Some scientists believe that they have discovered where the brain of a tree would be.
Wow.
But it's in different segments, not like the human brain. And they say that their research so far leads them to believe that where the bottom of the trunk, where the roots branch out from the bottom of the trunk, up in between each of those roots coming out from the trunk, is a node in there which could be the brain of the tree. Now, trees are so clever. Okay, a tree is born in the forest. Its life may be 100, maybe 200, 300, 400, 500, 1,000 years old. That tree has to say exactly where it started. It spends its whole life in one place. So they're saying that trees have to be really super smart to actually survive. They have, comes a fire, we can see the devastation which happens with fires at the moment. The tree's gone. Comes a flood, the tree's gone. The tsunami will knock it over. Drought will affect it. Predators will eat it right down to the ground. And so trees have to be resilient, and they have to be able to survive. And I mean, we all know, and I used to often think about, well, the last few years, think about hurting plants and things like this, pruning all our fruit trees at home here, cutting the branches off, you know, and other things too, to get a bit overgrown. I thought, oh my gosh, but they all regrow. And I say, well, it's not unlike humans. We cut our fingernails and toenails, and some of us shave, I don't. Others cut our hair, I don't. But, and it regrows. So, but look, if it wasn't for plants, as I said before, we wouldn't be here in this human form. And it was something which came up the other day in one of the feeds, and this lady, I think she was from the UK, was talking about breathing and the plant's breathing. And she said, we go and stand beside a tree and just become aware of your breath. Your breath in, you're taking in the oxygen. Your breath out, you're expelling the carbon. The tree alongside you is breathing the carbon in and breathing oxygen out. That's an incredible relationship. Just standing with the tree, if someone's aware of that's the importance. But not only that, I mean, we just wouldn't be able to exist as we do, because everything, all the food, the whole food chain on this planet relies on plants. Plants are at the beginning with seeds and fruits and nuts, feed the animals, feed the humans. Humans, of course, since man became sort of domesticated and started to farm and went to agriculture, I found out the lots of shortcuts. Instead of going out and picking all the herbage and the seeds and that, you could actually let the animals do that and eat the animals instead. So man took a shortcut, okay, which is very interesting. So that's why I don't mind being a vegetarian. It makes a lot of sense, doesn't it?
Go back to
so yeah, and I also think I'll toss in something else here which will make you ask me a question or two. I have a feeling, with my interest in fairies and the fairy realms and elemental beings, that the plant elementals play quite a role in the plant music, or the condition of the plant, the acceptance of the plant, and also the understanding of how the plant can express itself. So I think plant elementals play a role there too. I've got no proof of that.
Yeah,
it's just the feeling that you get when you are, as you know, when you are sensitive to these things. You get the feeling, don't you?
Yeah, totally. And what I start to see when you say that is, I really like working with sacred geometry, and what I understand about the fairy elemental realm when it comes to plants or plant divas is that they hold that higher blueprint of the plant. And for me, it's all vibration. So there's an energetic structure, and then there's the physical structure, but at the same time, it's all just it's all vibration. And that's what we're hearing as well. So they must hold as a sound wave and as a because every vibration has a sound to it. So, because actually there isn't any sound either, is there? Because there's only vibration. I remember thinking this one time. There's only vibration, and then it's just our human form that turns vibration into sound within us. Like, actually, there's only vibration going on. We kind of live in a silent world, really. I just kind of fascinating. And so going back to the elemental energy, I agree with what you're saying, that they're holding the I would imagine they're holding the sound, the like the sound blueprint of the plant as well. Yeah. I have a crazy memory, kind of a weird memory, or an image of creation, of myself being a being who was singing creation into creation, like singing sound, and that sound made the plants and made life. So I think it goes back to sound every time. Sound and vibration.
It does, because the primeval sound I mean, the creation that we know it was created through sound and light.
Light, yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, sound and light. And also, I mean, nowadays you can get headphone sets, which you don't put on your ear or in your ear. You put them on your temporal area here, and it's like a conductive. It's a conducive thing which takes the sound vibrations through the bones here without going through the eardrums. And you know what it's like yourself when you sit.
And then you hear it.
Yeah.
I wondered that. I was wondering earlier if you had hooked up one of your machines to your body. Like, can you do that? Like,
oh, look, I have.
Can you hear the music of a human?
You can, and it's something that I think that there's going to be a lot in it. It works very much like the old biofeedback machines did.
Uh-huh.
Do you remember the biofeedback machines? No, perhaps not. But
they
came out in this tells you how old I am. They came out in the 60s and 70s, which is last century. And they're very popular things. I've got an old prototype here somewhere downstairs in the box. And you had a black box with some flashing lights on it and a little gauge which went back and forwards. And you put some contacts on the 2 fingers on one hand, 2 fingers on the other hand, turned it on, a little battery-driven thing, and you would then concentrate your thought on relaxing through breathing to go into a meditative or contemplative state, going through alpha to beta, and watching the gauge, instead of going flickering way up here high, slowly go down to nothing, and the little light, which was going like this, slow right down until it's just almost nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So this technology that we're using now, biofeedback machines were a spin-off from the lie detection equipment.
Uh-huh. Oh, I've read that in...
the man called Cleve Baxter,
uh-huh.
The FBI expert who invented the supermodel of the lie detection equipment based on all sorts of research. And he was a man who first came to realize that plants do react to human thought and human intention, because he hooked up his machine to a plant and it reacted with a thought that he had.
That's documented in a book, isn't it? There's a book. It's oh no,
yeah,
it's called now.
Oh, there is. Yeah. I can't remember the name either. So and he's there's a YouTube video on him up too, so it's interesting. So there's a lot of information out there for folk. There are so many things that we can look at, but my main mission, I suppose we call it, is just to try and help people to become more aware of nature, to remember, because people often say, oh, well, I just want to renew my connection with nature. And I say, hold on, you've never been disconnected. You've been connected the whole time. You just forgot. So it's a time to remember. And all these things we've talked about tonight should actually prompt people to remember, prompt them to pay a bit more attention to the forest and the trees. There's another term which is being coined in recent times. I love this. It comes from an Italian scientist, and excuse me, just to move my seat there. He calls it plant blindness. So many people are almost blind to the plants around them. So the people that will get up in the morning and go out the front door to go down the road to work and get in their car or go down and get the bus, and they'll say goodbye to the children, or pat the dog and tickle the cat under the chin, look at the goldfish, and all around them as they go down the driveway in their garden, there's trees and bushes and shrubs. They don't even notice those. They're always there. They're just background stuff. So what they're saying, most people suffer from plant blindness. We don't really go and and sort of pay that much attention to a tree. But for all of that, looking at the animals and the fish I was just talking about, and children, some of the scientists are now saying that within 10 to 15 years' time, we as humans are going to have to recognize and acknowledge trees as sentient beings.
Yeah.
How about that?
How that
New
changes
Zealand,
everything.
yeah. New
Changes.
Zealand was it does. New Zealand was a signatory 3 years ago, the first signatory to an international charter to offer to bring sentiency to all mammals, to offer a greater degree of protection to animals and mammals. So plant one won't be far away. So there we are. We've got up to 3/4 of an hour now.
Yeah.
So, it was just about time.
Yeah, I had like it was sort of it was staying with me to ask, to go back to your peace lily and the sound of your peace lily, and I just wanted to ask, like, when you're connecting into it and listening to its sound, is it changing when you like can you or like when you're connecting to any plant, are you actually hearing the response to you in the sound? Is there a response? Just wondered.
There is, and it's quite easily proven when you work with plants at this level.
Yeah.
First of all, Sabella and myself, my peace lady, have a great relationship. We've been performing together for 4 years. I remember last year I was home on this particular day by myself, and I thought, okay, I'm just going to play Brahms music quite loudly in the lounge here for a couple of hours so Sabella can take this on. And she wasn't plugged in or anything, she was just sitting in the kitchen. And then when I did turn her on, after I turned the Brahms off, I noticed an incredible change in actually her flow, her sequence of notes. It had changed to what it had been, say, a couple of days before. And I thought, wow, now this is possible. So, but we get direct responses from plants. Often when I go and speak to groups, we'll get everyone to, towards the end, stand around in a big circle, however many people there, listening to peace lily or whatever the tree in the forest might be. Focus your love on the plant or the tree. Close your eyes, focus your loving intention and goodwill. You can hear the song change. Everyone hears it. It happens. It changes. And also to an individual going up while the plant is singing and just laying your hands either around without touching the leaves, or actually even laying them on the top of the leaves, change the song. But one thing which happened a few years ago, the first time I went out after I broke my ankle and took Sabella, I was asked to go to a healing centre in South Auckland and give a talk because I'd heard I was doing something. So away I went, and I gave a 3/4 hour talk, scientific stuff, and how this device works. And Sabella was behind me there on a little table, singing beautifully, just do. And so I finished my presentation. There was about 40, 50 people there in the room. And in the Maori tradition in New Zealand, given a talk or something of this nature, everyone will stand up and sing a waiata, which is a song to you. Okay, so they all stood up to sing a song, which was Te Aroha, which is a song about love. It's a beautiful, gentle song, and the words are quite easy in Maori to learn. So they all stood up there. They sung the first 2 verses, and Peace Lily was in the background, just trilling away as she had for 3/4 an hour. And the lady leading them said, "Now, we're just going to whisper the last verse of Te Aroha and listen to Peace Lily." So she no sooner said that, then Peace Lily completely stopped singing. And they started to go through the 5 or 6 lines of the last verse. And I quickly looked around. I thought, the power's gone off and I've got no electricity to power up. No, the lights are still on, but she wasn't singing. And then they finished, and everyone looked, and peacefully came back, and she did a fanfare. It was something like this, 4 notes, and then back into a song. 40 people standing around, their jaws dropped. They still talk about that after 4 years,
Wow.
the day that happened. So that was a case in point.
Beautiful.
So in the right setting, the right atmosphere, the loving atmosphere.
So wouldn't it be beautiful then, like what you were talking about with the plant blindness, and you were the picture you shared of like somebody leaving their house and stroking the dog and tickling the cat and saying goodbye to the children, then to get outside. And I mean, I often do this. I'm often like, stroking the plants as I walk past. If everybody started, just stroking the plants and stopping and smelling the flowers and just really interacting and seeing like just that harmonious sound that would then start to penetrate like our reality. We wouldn't even hear it, but it would be there. It'd be really shifting the vibration of our streets that we live in, and everything would come alive again. You painted this real picture of aliveness to me. I've got goosebumps.
Well, I mean, this is what we're all doing.
Yeah.
People like you and I and so many other people we know are out there talking about this and sharing it.
Yeah.
I mean, this is why, the first, one of my first films I put up 3 years ago, on doing something like this in the forest, it ended up having 450,000 views.
Yeah.
Within a month.
Wow.
And I've got one going at the moment, which is just going like that. So occasionally something catches people's attention, then they're drawn into it, they listen to it, they'll comment on it, they'll share it with other people. So it is happening. I often say that, you and I and others we know, we just got to keep dropping the pebble in the pond all the time, and the ripples keep going out. But we just got to keep tossing the pebbles.
Yeah.
The ripples eventually stop unless you keep on.
Yeah, beautiful. Oh, thank you so much, Gary. It's just, I know that I could talk to you for hours. I just know that there's just so much. So yeah. So but I'd love to just give you an opportunity to share a little bit about your Patreon page that you've just put up as I love the timing of this, that like it's taken us however long it has to come to this point, and it's coincided with your
the Patreon page. It's interesting. We do all this work. I'm retired from work many years ago. I'm what you call a pensioner. I'm in my 80th year, so time's moving on. There's so much more I want to do, and I've got expenses to cover if I go out, because I'm going to go on the road and visit trees at sacred sites and record their songs. Okay.
Wow.
Now, so, and my gear, I've got basic, camera gear and things like that, but I've got expenses. So Patreon, which is Patreon, Patreon is a website set up a number of years ago to allow people, creative people like performers, musicians, artists, filmmakers, you name it, to seek patronage. And historically, this is what kept writers and artists and dancers and things going right throughout history, was rich patrons who paid, to help them whilst they express their art. So that's what Patreon does. It allows people like myself to see if there's enough people out there interested to offer just a couple of dollars, $3 or $4, a couple of pounds a month.
Yeah.
And from that, by declaring that they'd like to do this, they can start and finish at any time they like. There's no contract. And then people like myself will then give them rewards, which no one else, say on Facebook, gets. They'll still get what I do on Facebook, but not quite as much.
Yeah.
So the Patreon members who are supporting me will get a lot more.
Great.
which includes lots of music, because I'm always working a lot with Sabella, and I've got other trees I'm working with now to produce musical tracks, because the music itself is meditative,
Yeah,
contemplative, and induces well-being and even healing. So
absolutely. Yeah,
there we
beautiful.
are.
Wow, what a gift. What a gift. So I'll definitely I'll leave a link below the interview on YouTube where people can click on and check out your Patreon page and everywhere else that they can find you as well. You're everywhere, aren't you? You're like Instagram and Facebook and YouTube.
Yeah,
And
that's about it.
yeah, and
That's enough.
yeah, it is enough. I'm about the same. And yeah, so if anybody hasn't checked you out yet, then do go and have a look at Gary's videos from the forest. You also share lots of wisdom, don't you, Gary? Like just what comes through in the moment from the forest. You're allowing the forest to kind of speak through you, it feels. And yeah, I love your videos and your imagery, and there's a richness and wholeness in there. So yeah, is there anything else before we finish that you feel like you'd like to share? Any message or last words? Or...
It's you don't have to be a super active person to become involved with nature. I mean, if there's things which preclude physical activity, you're not well, or you're getting on a bit in years, or time is of an essence. It's even just to sit inside your lounge with your pot plant, your favorite potted plant, or a pot plant which is always there. And sit with it, sit beside it, talk to it,
Mm-hmm.
stroke its leaves, tell it you love it,
Mm-hmm.
and the plant will love you back.
Mm-hmm.
There's no doubt about that.
Mm.
It's interesting, you're talking about experimenting before, with humans. But I have done an experiment with the sacred stone of New Zealand. It's the Pouanamu, the green stone.
Ooh.
And I have listened to the green stone play music.
Wow.
And the other day, I've just made a film with Chrissy, and I've actually recorded water. Now, water, we go to a stream, a running stream. We've got springs on our land as well as a river. And the spring chuckles away and over the stones and makes all the little watery noises. But it's what's within the water. So I put my electrodes in a special way in the water, and we recorded water singing. So we've got the water singing through the device with the noise of the water flowing over the stones in the background. Is so unique.
Wow.
And I thought, oh my God. And the only reason I did this is that about a year ago, an old Māori kaumātua, a tōhanga, a priest, came to visit me a couple of times, and he was very enamored with the music of the plants, and particularly the healing possibility of listening to music of healing plants. And we sat and we talked, and he said, right, he said, next thing what I want to see you do is record water. And at the time I thought, oh, no, I'm going to focus on plants. I don't want to experiment. But one day I was tempted and I did it. And I thought, oh, what do I do now? So I got Chrissy to film it with me the other day. We made a beautiful 6-minute film of the spring, the fairy springs on our land, singing its own song.
Wow.
Watch the space.
I was going to say, what are you going to do with it? Where will we be able to see it?
I'll put it up on Facebook as I promote Patreon of the next cut. So just be patient.
Yeah.
It'll be there.
Oh, yummy! I'm looking forward to that.
And we also recorded. I've got a big greenstone boulder out in the backyard, and the greenstone, of course, is the stone of well-being, and it's the stone of peace. And I got that to sing too.
Wow.
They're funny, you do things, and I've got a lot of crystals around the place, as a lot of us have not been able to get one crystal sing. Isn't it interesting? Possibly because I prefer, in my way, to work with the Poanamu, the greenstone.
Mm-hmm.
So, but other people can experiment. There's no end to this. I think it can go on and on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, what an exciting new realm to explore. Great. Oh, thank you so much for sharing with us. It's been really beautiful. Maybe we could just have a few moments of just listening to, what's the name of your piece, Lily?
Sabella.
Sabella.
Sabella. Isn't that beautiful?
It's amazing. Like my whole body just feels really calm, and like I just wanted to breathe it all into every cell. Yeah.
That's one thing I'll be offering the Patreon supporters is once a month they'll get a 10-minute or 30-minute track, a new track.
Nice.
Of music.
Nice. That's beautiful.
Well, my love.
Thank you so much, Gary. I was just so happy that this has finally happened.
For sharing with me. And I love your enthusiasm.
Thank you.
And until we talk again, so
indeed,
perhaps we can have an episode 2 sometime in the not too distant future.
I think I would like that a lot. Yes. Okay. Great. All right. So much love to you. Well, thank you.
Blessings to you and to everyone out there and in there.
Yeah.
And until we meet again.
Indeed. Okay. So much love to everybody. Thank you for watching. Bye.